Hey there. Today we're going to talk about testimonials without breaking confidentiality. This is the social proof that almost nobody in our profession collects. And we're going to talk today about how to do it without crossing any ethical lines. I'm Natalie Armstrong Motin. Welcome back to Marketing Monday. So I want to start with a question. So if you pull up your website right now, or your LinkedIn profile, or your speaker bio, whatever your marketing surface is, and then tell me how many testimonials, endorsements, or pieces of social proof do you have on it? If you're like most people that I talk to, most people that I work with, the answer is going to be zero, goose eggs, maybe one sort of buried at the bottom of a page that not many people visit. And when I ask my clients why, the answer is always some kind of version of the same thing. And that's, well, confidentiality. I can't exactly ask the parties to write me a review. Well, I think, my friend, that's one of the single most expensive misunderstandings in the resolution marketing arena that there is, because I feel that conclusion is just wrong. Confidentiality does not mean that you can't have social proof. It just means that you need to know where to find it. So let's fix that today. So, fresh perspective in a mug. Coffee is kind of the one thing in my life that gives me, other than my husband, that really consistent, unsolicited praise every single morning, and I'll take it. So speaking of praise, though, let's talk about today's subject, testimonials. So I think here's what's happening. Every other professional services field uses social proof everywhere. Therapists, where they can, consultants, coaches, lawyers, even with all their bar restrictions, they still find ways. Social advisors, architects, doctors, on those review sites, whether they like it or not. And then there's the resolution industry, where the entire profession seems to have agreed by a somewhat silent consensus that we just don't do this. And the result is that prospective clients, they land on our websites and they don't find any third-party voices, right? Just our own words about ourselves. And we're really lovely, but without a third-party voice, it makes you wonder, what does the potential client think? The client who's considering hiring you, what do they think about you? They don't have any frame of reference, and they're trying to figure out whether or not you're the right human being to help them. And the only data point that they have is your own self-description, which I'm sure is lovely. But that description that you write for yourself, no matter how well written, is by definition the least objective source possible. And social proof gives them somebody else's voice, somebody who has worked with you, somebody whose opinion they can weigh. And it dramatically lowers the activation energy required to pick up the phone or log on to your online calendar. So here's the reframe. The reason so many neutrals think that they can't have testimonials is that, I think, we're thinking about probably the wrong source of testimonial. We're imagining happy ex-parties writing a glowing paragraph about how mediation saved their business or saved their marriage. And of course we can't do that. The parties are who you owe confidentiality to, so they're not the source. But the parties are not the only people who experience your work. There are at least 4, maybe 5 other sources of social proof that you can use. And those, every one of them, are ethically clean. Every one of them are more valuable than, I think, what you're currently doing, which is possibly nothing. So source 1, of course, is the attorneys who appeared on the cases. They can speak about their professional impression of you, your preparation, your skill at managing difficult dynamics, your professionalism. without ever revealing anything at all about the underlying matter or the parties. So a perfectly clean attorney testimonial would look like this. It would be, Natalie is the mediator I send my most difficult employment cases to. She prepares thoroughly. She manages tough personalities with skill and earns the trust of both sides quickly. Counsel always come out feeling heard. Right? So notice what that does and does not say. It says nothing about a specific case. It names no parties. It reveals no information about an outcome or the substance. It just describes a professional opinion of how the practitioner works. And that is bulletproof ethically. It's also really persuasive. You can also source process feedback. So process feedback is not outcome feedback, right? It would sound something like this. Natalie kept us focused when we were spinning out, or she didn't let us off the hook on the hard questions, right? Maybe the way she structured the day made an impossible conversation feel possible, something like that. These kinds of testimonials describe the experience of being in the room with you. They don't reveal anything at all about what was discussed or what was decided. They're about your skill as a process designer and a facilitator. And again, that kind of feedback can come from attorneys. It can come from party representatives in commercial matters, from advisors who attended the session, anywhere non-party observer was present and is able to speak about how you ran the process. Right? Another source could be an aggregated pattern, aggregated anonymous patterns. So I think this is kind of where things get really powerful, honestly, even though they're anonymous, because they're aggregated patterns. So it would be something like, clients consistently tell us that we're the easiest mediators to work with on the scheduling side, right? Or counsel routinely tell us that they trust us with cases other neutrals can't crack. Or in our post-session feedback, the word that comes up most often is tenacious or patient or something like that. And that kind of statement, it aggregates the feedback that you've received without quoting any specific individual. So it's honest. You actually do receive that feedback. You're just not attaching a name to it. So it tells the truth about your practice in a way that no individual quote could. And it doesn't require any individual party or attorney to consent to a public statement. Here's kind of the catch. This only works if you actually collect the feedback, which most of us don't do in a systematic way. So let me say this, even if you do nothing else from today's episode of Marketing Monday, start sending a little 2-question follow-up email after every matter that closes, settled or not, and ask just the question, what worked? What would have made it better? Ask counsel. Save the responses. And within a few weeks, a few months, you will have a stockpile of patterns to draw from. You might also consider as a source of testimonials, provider or institutional kind of endorsements, provider organization and institutional endorsements, panel memberships, training organizations that you've been invited to teach for, speak to, bar associations that have featured you, a court roster that you sit on, industry awards, conferences that have asked you to be the keynote. Now, none of those involve a party or a case. All of them are public, third-party signals that other people who are a potential client, other people in our profession, other people have evaluated your work and concluded that you are worth elevating. So use them. Put them in your bio, reference them in your speaker introductions. They are social proof, even if they don't look like a traditional quote. So how do you gather these testimonials? Well, you just have to ask. And I think this is something that most of us sort of feel uncomfortable about, and that's the ask. And a lot of us, I think, get it wrong in not helping. Instead, we say something like, would you write me a testimonial? Well, when you ask, somebody to write you a testimonial, you're kind of assigning them a homework project. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to give people a homework assignment. They don't have time for it. They're not interested in it. But if a colleague, you could ask something like this. If a colleague asks you what it's like to work with me as a mediator, what would you say? Now that's a conversation, and people answer conversations, not necessarily homework assignments. So you could also then offer to draft it for them and just say, would it help if I sent you 2 or 3 sentences based on what you just said, and you can edit them however you want? And most people, 90% of people, are going to say, yeah, sure, no problem, because you've removed the friction in the conversation. It's not an assignment any longer. They edit your draft, they send it back, and you have a clean, polished, attorney-approved testimonial. You can always give people an out. So you can simply say, if you're not comfortable with me using your name, I'm happy to attribute it as, quote unquote, a defense side employment attorney in Chicago. Just that. And some lawyers can't put their name to anything because of a firm policy. That's fine. Anonymized professional descriptors still work. So where do you use these testimonials that you're gathering up? Where do these go? Well, not all go on a quote unquote testimonials page. Most people don't click on testimonials pages anyway. So what you want to do is sort of sprinkle them throughout your website. So put one in the header of your homepage, one next to your contact form, put one in the middle of your about page, put one on your email signature, put one on your LinkedIn featured section. Use them in your speaker bios, your conference proposals, your one sheets, so to speak. Because a testimonial that is buried on page 7 of your website, it's not really doing anything for you. But a testimonial sitting next to your contact me button, now that's doing some real work. So this week's Marketing Monday homework is 3 things. 1, identify sources of possible testimonials. Attorneys who have been to you on various matters in the last 12 months and would say something positive about your work. Just 3 names. 3 names. Next, draft the email that you're going to send them. Short, specific, and offer to draft on their behalf. Then send the emails this week, not next month, this week, because we've got to get these kinds of things done. And if you want help thinking about your social proof strategy, what to collect, how to ask, where to place it, how to talk about the ethics with a more risk-averse partner or panel coordinator, for example, that's exactly what I do here every day at Marketing Resolution. Come find me on my website, howtomarketmymediationpractice.com, or on LinkedIn. I'd love to help. So that is it for today. Thanks for joining me for Marketing Monday. Be a good human. Bye-bye.